Hit record. Give me 1 second. It may take the sound out for a minute. Um, can you hear me now?
You're
Okay,
good.
cool. Yeah, it usually zaps it out. No worries. It's great to meet you. Where are you located?
I am in the large of Rhode Island.
Okay, excellent.
I'm in
Excellent.
Newport. How about you?
I'm in Kansas City, Missouri, right in the middle of the country.
Nice, nice. Let
Yeah.
me talk to Shana. I get the link and I'm on, so she doesn't.
What's that now?
I was just telling Shana I'm on because I told her I
Oh,
didn't have the link. I'm good.
okay. Cool. Excellent. Well, are you ready to hop in? You have any questions?
No, I'm good. I follow your lead.
Okay, excellent. Sounds great, Chris. Wonderful to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today.
You bet. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Let's begin before we get into your good work by asking you this. 5 years ago, this pandemic changed so many things. How did you get through the pandemic, and how has it radiated and affected your world in 2025?
Yeah, obviously nobody knew, Joe, right? It wasn't going to happen. But interestingly enough, what the pandemic did is right away, before the market got hot in my world for real estate, right away the panic was there and everybody needed a guide. We took on more properties than we ever took on historically in the company. And then just a couple of short months later, everybody and their brother and sister could sell like that. So that changed it yet again. The ripple effect now, fast forwarding, is pretty cool because the virtual pieces of what we do is accepted totally. So people can do business whenever and wherever they want. And things have moved a lot more quickly because of that. I think it also kept sort of that uncertainty in the market. It still exists today. And that is where creative real estate draws in because they need a guide.
So, if we to get to the crux of what you do between real estate and writing, being a best-selling author, I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds. Kids always get the truth out of us.
Yeah.
It's career day, and the kid in the back of the room that's always curious is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you
Yeah.
answer them?
We teach people how to buy real estate without ever going to a bank, without ever using their gobs of their own money. Both of those two things.
Okay. So, what did you want to be at 12 years old? What was your dream when you were in that position?
You're gonna think I'm wacko here, but I hung around my father who hung around real estate people, even though that wasn't his main business. So I always wanted real estate. I just didn't know what. I used to put pictures of buildings up. I didn't know why. I just liked real estate.
So take me back to the beginnings where you were born and raised. And other than just wanting to do this, what were some foundational elements? Because being in real estate requires this very specialized set of skills. How did those develop? How did those seeds get planted? How did all of that develop into this acumen and success that you've had, not only in real estate, but in writing?
Yeah, yeah. So I was around entrepreneurship because, as I just alluded to, my dad built a company, but it was a welding supply company and nothing to do with real estate. But he would play with real estate on the side. So that was I grew up in Massachusetts, and I'm down in Rhode Island, as I shared with you now. But I was around that. I think exposure and proximity really, 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 really matters. And so that's what I got exposed to, and I fell in love with the real estate side of things. As far as the writing, and you can peel me back to any piece of this later, I just want to be brief.
Yeah.
As far as the writing, I was a little frustrated. So when I got back into the sort of into the trenches after the crash, because I got wrecked in the '08 crash, I was not finding anything that would say to me, as a new student of anyone, hey, here's how you go about this, and I'm going to be here to support you. It was always like things were left out. So I said to my wife, I'm going to write a book and just kind of spill it all out. And that's what started the process. I enjoyed it. And then we wrote three other ones after that. But I just, whenever I get this itch, like, okay, there's a gap, or okay, somebody's misconstruing this, or someone's got mismanaged expectations. That's what's provoked each one of those so far.
So let me ask you this. What is one of So you have a dream of getting into real estate and it happens. What was the difference between the dream of living your life in real estate and actually doing it? Was there a big chasm, a big area that was unexpected about the reality of being in that world?
Yeah. Yeah. What comes to mind immediately when you say that, Joe, is this, I'll describe it this way. Entrepreneurship, and I don't want to water down somebody making $1 million, but entrepreneurship is such that to get to $1 million as a solopreneur, to answer, because to go to your question, is just more work, get up early, stay up late, more grind, more follow up, more follow, more, 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 more. You can get to that. My big aha was it took me several years, almost 2 decades, to go, well, wait a minute. Every single year, I got to do that again. Every single year I got to reset and be on the proverbial treadmill. So how do I get from, the million as an entrepreneur to not being all Chris, all me, all me, all me? And how do I run a business? That was the biggest aha. It still is to this day. That was the biggest, and we did that not until 17. You think I've got this 34 years and I figured it out, 8 years ago. So that was the biggest aha, just making that transition from solopreneur to business owner, CEO.
So who's been your hero? Who's been that inspirational force that's allowed you to be successful and to become who you are today?
Well, initially, I would say my dad. I remember being in college, going into his office and just having pep talk. Like I always liked it. It was always motivational. But as we grow, I think you'd agree, it's whatever's happening in our business or life at that time, right? So, okay, the next 12 months, what do we need? The next 12 months, what do we need? In 17, what was the inspiration that sparked the growth versus the solopreneur was I just looked into people that help businesses scale, and we stumbled upon elite entrepreneurs and said, okay, that's it, and we've been with them since. So it pivots depending on where we are in life, right?
Yeah. What about entrepreneurs or real estate moguls? Who do you admire? Who do you look up to? Or who would be someone you would like to meet that might help you on your journey?
Yeah. Okay, so this is not politically, it has nothing to do with it because I read Donald Trump's book in 1980, whatever it came out, right?
Yeah,
But the crap that he's gone through in real estate, forget political for a second.
yeah.
The crap that he went through in real estate from the 80s book on, I would love to get in. In fact, when I was younger, again, way before the political scene, I wrote numerous letters and finally got an answer back from one of his executive assistants and couldn't get in. It was a polite letter. But this is before he was famous, right? I would have loved to just figure out, well, how the hell do you get through all that? How do you think that, anyone like that? And Sam Zell, I read his book. I'd love to sit down with him. I think he's still around. Guys like that have been through such bigger stuff, it makes you expand your brain.
So as an author, who's one of your favorite authors? What book did you read growing up that opened up the world of reading to you?
Reading wise, I used to actually read novels, and I'm going way back. You put me way back to middle school. But as far as business books, I think the Brian Tracy's and those type, and then eventually Donald Trump's first book in the 80s got me thinking entrepreneur slash real estate. I got to think.
So let me ask you this. How have you balanced taking care of yourself, your family, your soul, and doing good in business? There's a lot going on in your life. Have you looked at it as a balancing act? How do you go about each day?
Yeah, I think the word balance is tough when people talk about it. I like a lifestyle in business and a lifestyle in personal, and it's not to say they're always balanced because there's ebbs and flows, right? There's a busy season in business and there's a busy season in life, whether you invite it or not. So I do it with discipline. I mean, if I don't, for example, personally, physically, if I don't work out and do my thing in the morning, my day's messed up, right? This is me. For
Yeah.
some people, it might be meditation or walk on the beach. For me, it's a workout. Whatever it might be for you, just make sure you put those in. It's like filling up the big rocks first in the jar analogy that everybody always uses because if not, we all can be busy. It kills me when I'm talking with people in our community and they go, "Yeah, but I'm busy." Yeah, everybody has the same thing going on. You just have to learn how to prioritize better. So it's priority and discipline.
So, what ultimately gets you up every day? What is the biggest motivator for you to continue to do this work? I mean, it's obviously a changing, evolving industry. You have to keep up with it. It requires a lot of work. What is that motivation every day for you?
My why has changed with age. I'm 59. I've got two grandkids now. My why every day is to create the income and the wealth, not to buy stuff, to create the income and the wealth to then create experiences with, in my case, family and friends, mostly family, that money can't buy. For my wife and I, I've been married 39 years, and for my grandkids, that's what keeps me going. Now, how does that tie to real estate? Well, what piggybacks that is helping investors and want to be investors create the lifestyle of their dreams. Easy to say, much harder to do in the mindset space as you're going through the journey. So that's what keeps me going. And I get bored easy. In creative real estate, it's pretty damn tough to get bored because every deal's different and constructed different. So those are kind of the three prongs that keep me going.
So, are your kids in real estate?
Yeah, it's family company. So when I came through the '08 crash and I was just annihilated, I started back in this creative world because I had no money. And my son joined me in 14, my son-in-law and daughter joined me in 15, and now we've all scaled it to where we are today. We hit fastest growing companies in US, Inc. 5,000 3 years in a row. And that's all, it's not me. I was a solopreneur. It's them and the whole family dynamic. Yeah.
So, to take this conversation back to the beginning with COVID, we would hope as human beings we would never return to that era of anything along the lines of COVID. But the same thing with OA. Has there been protections? Has there been things that have been put in place that will prevent that from happening again? Or is that just kind of the life cycle, the cyclical action of the economy that might come back to that someday?
Oh, in general, you're talking like total general. Yeah.
Yeah, just like having that panic of the crash. I mean, can that happen again?
Oh, I'm never going to say no to that, right?
Right.
I just think they're different. Like I did a whole video about a year ago on the differences between this crash and oh wait, like they're just different, right? When I say this crash everybody says is coming.
Yeah.
We're just in a different market right now entirely. So do I think the market's going to constantly ebb and flow? Yep, 100%. That's the nature of real estate. That's why, by the way, Joe, that I did what I did because I'm like, all right, if I'm going to get back in this, I have to get my brains beat out and financially and personally, I got to do something where I know when the market's pivoting, I'm pivoting with it, I'm having fun. And that's what we created. That was the big change versus, well, look, realtors are running for the hills now, for example, and other niches. Why? Because they're contingent upon the market. It's got to be well, we can't do well. That's kind of tough. So that's why we changed.
What's the best piece of property you've ever bought, whether personally or business wise, that always has a soft spot in your heart?
Um, I did the biggest three deals of my life between 23 and 24 August, and the biggest one was a personal deal in Vermont. Biggest for a couple reasons. Financially, yes, but also because my wife and I did it entirely together. We've always both played, and she did all kinds of product, but we built that from the ground up, from picking the land up, and it was the biggest house we ever did together, the biggest project we ever did together, the toughest project we ever did together, and the most lucrative.
So the one thing about real estate, before people get into it, I think there's a certain amount of people out there where their head kind of spins. There's so many moving parts that go into the real estate world. But
Hmm.
you're clearly an expert. You've been doing this for a while. What's one of the biggest misconceptions of getting into the real estate world? A myth that just isn't true, that is a barrier for people.
That you need money and credit. I look, my first 17 or 18 years, whatever it took to get to the crash, if I do the math, yeah, 17. I did it. I'm like, oh, I got to get a bank loan. I got to have good credit. I thought that was, and I was exposed to stuff, and I still thought, okay, by and large, I can still get to involve them being the banks. You just don't. And prior to banking, people were buying real estate with owner financing and lease purchase. This is not new. We just wrapped a nice system around it, right, and support. But the Rockefellers and they all did it. There's books on it.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest misperception, I think.
So if you were to have a dream tonight, ran into that 18-year-old version of you, get ready to charge hard into the world, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived, the wisdom you've gained, what advice would you impart on that young version of you?
Can I do a few pieces of advice?
Please. Yeah.
No particular order. One, sacrifice early financially so that you can have what most won't have because they just won't, the discipline won't sacrifice financially. And I'm not saying be cheap, but be frugal and smart, right? Secondly, this is a big one, I think, especially now with the internet, but let's just say I'm 18 today. Um, there is someone out there that is where you want to be precisely like you can define it. I'm talking lifestyle, well balanced, financially, everything. They're there. With the beauty of the internet and the advantage of the internet, you can find them. But here's the key. When you find them and you go seek them out for advice, you gotta put the blinders on for like 7 years. This is the hardest thing people don't want to do because the internet and the marketing says get rich quick tomorrow. It's just not reality. 7 years, Brian Tracy was on my podcast and he's 80 something years old. And I told him three and he said, nope, it's 7 years because you're going to really be awful for 3 years and you're going to be adequate and then you're going to break through. And I look back and go, yeah, he's 100% right. So I've been saying seven since then. So I think that's the piece that someone's out there, go find them and put the blinders on for 7 years.
So you're a four-time bestseller. You've probably changed countless lives that you may never know about. But what lives have you changed? What letter have you gotten that's absolutely blew you away? One of the first letters of changing somebody's perspective or life that you got.
I get a lot of notes and letters. What affected me the most was when someone walked up to me. It was exactly September of one of our events. So September of 23, I think, 22 or 23, right after COVID. And said, can I speak with you and your son-in-law and partner and your son? So he said, yeah, I didn't know it was gonna be a complaint or what. And he literally broke down in tears and said, you changed my life. He was a salesperson. He was on the road. He wasn't seeing his son. He didn't want to have the same thing happen that he was with his dad, not seeing him. And it just was like a flow of tears, and I'm like, okay, we touched him, yes, but we also are touching a lot of people I don't know about, precisely to your question.
Yeah.
So I'll never forget that.
So let me ask you the question. If you walked into a room of everybody that knows you in a professional sense, and you could swim through that sea of people and go to a podium and tell them one fun story about you, the first concert you went to, a magical place you traveled to, jumping out of an airplane, something fun that would humanize you a little bit, what story would you tell that group of people?
I don't know why this came to mind. It's not that exciting, but I met my wife at, we were 11 years old, 10 and a half, 11 years old, and we met because we had to bring stuff into English class and actually do a show and tell. And I was scared to death. And she brought her horse stuff in. We didn't know each other yet. And I brought all my smelly hockey equipment in. I mean, you play hockey. If you any hockey players listen, you know it stinks. I don't care what you do with it.
Yeah.
So I brought that. So that was my presentation, right? But that's what we chuckle at this day because we've been married 39 years this August. And I said, if that attracted, I pretty much can do anything I want.
That's right. So, of everything that you've done and accomplished, and more importantly, evolved to at this point, what are you the proudest of?
Um, my kids being independent. Now, I mean, I gratitude journal about that as recent as this week because that's a cool thing for any parent to go, oh, they did it and they're still doing it and they don't, there's no relying necessarily, even though you're always there for them.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. What's the best advice that you've gotten that you in turn have given to others as advice? Have you had a real seminal golden piece of advice that's rang true throughout your life?
I don't think anything's nailing me, Joe, as the thing, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't, because I think what happens, just like if someone says, what's the best book or it's like a bopping and weaving all the time, and I'm seeking different things from different people, and then sharing that. Like part of my role with the community is what? I read a great thing in a book. I'm like, man, I got to share that with the community. So I don't know. I wish I had you wish probably I had a better answer for that
No,
one.
it's fine. That's an answer. That's an answer in itself. Let me ask you this. For anybody that's young out there that looks at you and sees this very esteemed career, successful best-selling author, successful in real estate, and they're like, how am I going to do this? What would you tell to a young formative mind out there that's thinking about this life, but just hasn't taken that first step?
I'm gonna piggyback with an early answer. I'm gonna first say for them to create their magic life on paper. I don't care how young they are on paper. And then the piece I said earlier, you can do it. Just go find someone that's done it. Our biggest hang up, all of it, me during the crash, I was in my own head for 4 years before breaking out. So if I can help someone young not get in their own head and think bigger immediately and get around proximity, get around the right people, they can do it. It's so much mental, in my opinion.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, Chris. Family, friends, readers, clients, colleagues, everyone around you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Um, what the words come to mind would be driver and family. That just knee jerk.
Yeah. What's the best thing about living in Rhode Island?
The water. I
Yeah.
can't leave it.
Yeah. It's beautiful. I mean, that whole area up there is beautiful, right? All year round?
Yeah, because there's no spring, but from June till all the way to Thanksgiving, it's absolutely gorgeous, you know.
Yeah.
And again, I couldn't leave the water after all these years. I've been here since 2004. We came from Massachusetts, and so I've been here longer than I've been anywhere, and I wouldn't be able to leave it.
So when you look at your life, say 10 years from now, what's your goal? What are you looking at next? Do you have a next? How does that operate for you?
Yeah, I'm working through things now, like at my age, like the succession plan in the company so that I can still play and have fun and be there, but not have to be there. Things like boating. It's been a goal of mine for a long, long time. The Vermont project I told you was a 30-year goal. We did that. So now the boating is a goal for me to hang out and create those experiences I answered you earlier about, create the family experiences. Because you can't, like those last forever and you can't buy them, right?
Yeah.
So it's creating those. That's what I visualized the second you said that, creating some cool experiences.
So if anybody wants to pick up your wonderful work, real estate on your terms, any of your other works, ask any questions, dive into your business world, where do people go?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. We want to give all your listeners a free book, and it's not one of those free book offers that says free book, and then you got to put your credit card in for shipping. It's free. It comes
Yeah.
out of here. We'll ship a couple of them actually. Go to wickedsmartbooks.com/famous. So we know it came from your show. I want to honor that. And then if you don't mind listening to the New England accent for another half hour, there's a free workshop and you can do it in your own time. It's just go do it. smartrealestatecoach.com/masters class.
Okay, wonderful. Chris, this has been wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Best of luck with everything. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. So I got to ask you, being up in New England, are you a big football Tom Brady fan?
Yeah, we loved it. It's my
Okay.
wife's favorite sport, and she never used to be into sports.
I mean, I kind of feel like that with Mahomes here in Kansas City. Like I
Oh,
just,
we watch him too. I love him.
yeah, he's great, man.
I forgot you're there. Okay. Yeah, no, she likes that, especially last year. We watched them more. Last year we did than Patriots, but we watch them both.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I watched him. Spring camp or summer camps right up the street from us, and I
Ah,
was there the last day last year, and I just was watching Mahomes. And part of me is like, this is one of the most famous athletes in the world, and I'm just watching him. That dude just walked everywhere, talked to everybody,
really?
equipment guys, everybody. He is there. There was like a very mini micro portal that I got into his brain. He is the guy that pulls that whole unit
That's
together.
amazing. There's no mistake. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Joe, would you want to come on our show and because your experience with all the people you interview would be a cool chat if you,
yeah.
okay.
Please, yeah.
I don't know if they did that yet, but I'll make sure they do.
Yeah, send me over a link. I would love to do it. It'd be an
Okay.
honor.
Yeah,
And
we'll have fun.
yeah, and
All
thank
right.
you, man. This has been great. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you very much. I look forward to seeing you back on my show.
Yes, sir. Thank you, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Take care.
You're good.
See ya.